Live from the BDN Studios, it's Bang and Dang.
That's awesome.
If you don't like that, then
You ain't black.
Battle of Cane Hill, November 28, 1862, northwestern Arkansas, near the town of Cane Hill, clearly. After driving a Confederate army commanded by Earl Van Dorn and Sterling Price from northwestern Arkansas in 1862 at the Battle of Pea Ridge, which we did, Union General Samuel R. Curtis was promoted to Major General and assigned to command the Department of the Missouri.
All right.
Curtis replaced John M. Schofield. October of the same year, Curtis formed a new army named the Army of the Frontier and appointed Schofield to command that. Schofield's new army was composed of 3 divisions commanded by James G. Blunt, yo beautiful, James Totten, and Francis J. Huron. Opposing Schofield was the command of Confederate Thomas Hinman. Heard of this guy as well?
Look at that. May 31st, 1862, Memorial Day. No.
No.
No. Sorry, guys. May 31st, 1862. Hinman had been assigned to command the Trans-Mississippi Department.
Uh-oh.
He was later relieved of command because his strict control of the region angered prominent Arkansas civilians.
Oh, too bad.
Like, this dude is like Hitler. And they're like, who's that? Hinman was replaced by Theophilus Holmes. Despite his replacement as department commander, Hinman retained a field command and formed a serviceable army out of the scattered Confederate troops in the region. Early November, Herron's and Totten's division were stationed near Springfield, Missouri, while Blunt's division was south of Bentonville, Arkansas. The Confederate cavalry force under Emmett McDonald had reached Cane Hill, Arkansas. Blunt was informed of McDonald's presence and sent a small force under Colonel William F. Cloud to confront McDonald. After a brief clash, McDonald's horsemen retreated.
The horsemen.
Look at that.
After Cloud's force left the area, Hinman sent Brigadier General John S. Marmaduke with 2,000 cavalrymen to reoccupy Cane Hill. Union intelligence soon learned of the movement, and they're like, what the fuck?
Right.
Cane Hill was a smaller plateau within the larger Ozark Plateau, and this high ground provided a position for Marmaduke to base his lines on. Once Marmaduke learned that Blunt was approaching his position, he prepared for battle and sent his supply train away towards relative safety. This is good.
What do you do, right? After learning that Marmaduke advanced to Cane Hill, Blunt moved south to confront him with 5,000 men. He's like, let's go. Mm-hmm. Marmaduke countered Blunt's advance by moving a brigade under Colonel Joseph O. Shelby, including Quantrill's Raiders. Hey. They moved them forward to block the road Marmaduke expected Blunt to advance down. In addition to Shelby's brigade, Marmaduke's force also contained a brigade commanded by, you guessed it, Colonel Charles Carroll.
Charles Carroll. However, Blunt approached along a different road than anticipated. Blunt approached along a different road than anticipated by the Confederates, creating an element of surprise.
You would think he would have, got any road.
Some of the roads, right?
Right, come on.
Well, a brief artillery duel segued into an infantry assault by Blunt's force and Cloud's brigade as the spearhead doing the most damage. Okay. The initial Confederate position had to be abandoned.
Uh-oh.
Besides his numerical advantage, Blunt had a sizable advantage in material, contributing to the collapse of the Confederate line. Blunt had 30 cannons with his force, while Shelby had 4, and Carroll had an additional 2.
Oh, wow.
A substantial part of the Confederate force was also armed only with shotguns, while the Union had substantially better weapons in that area.
I wouldn't even fight.
Right.
It'd be stupid.
It's dumb.
The collapse of this initial Confederate position rendered the position of Carroll's brigade unsustainable, and Carroll's Arkansas cavalry fell back.
Yep.
Carroll's brigade in collapse, Shelby organized a rear guard in order to keep Blunt at bay until the Confederates could retreat to a better position. Shelby divided his force into small regiments, or segments, and then organized them in a successive line along the path of retreat. As Blunt pursued the retreating Confederates, the Union forces would run into one of Shelby's segments, which would hold Blunt's much stronger force off for as long as possible, you think?
All right.
Once each position became untenable, the segment would retreat, and Blunt would reach the next one. I mean, that might be work out.
Right.
This system worked
Slow them down at least, right?
This system worked long enough to enable the Confederates to form a general secondary line. The broken nature of some of the ground the Union Army had to move over also slowed Blunt's pursuit.
Yeah. All right. Marmaduke's attempt to form a secondary line was abandoned after another brief artillery duel due to the fact that Blunt's cannons had a clear advantage over Marmaduke's, right?
Duh.
After falling back from that position, Marmaduke formed another defensive line at Reed's Mountain. Reed's Mountain, just give up, dude. Go away.
Right.
Reed's Mountain was a locally prominent height, noted for the lack of vegetation on its slopes, providing an open space where Marmaduke could better align his artillery.
Artillery.
Again, Union artillery fire wreaked havoc on the Confederate
Obviously.
line, although Blunt also ordered an infantry assault by the 11th Kansas and the 3rd Indian Home Guard.
All right.
The Confederates began to run out of ammunition for both their artillery and cavalry, and one of the Confederate cannons was damaged to the extent that it was no longer usable. The Confederates were forced to fall back from that position as well and were pursued by Blunt. Again, the broken nature of some of the ground along the path of the Confederate retreat slowed the Union pursuit. I would assume it would slow the Confederate retreat as well.
Right.
Eventually, darkness ended the fighting.
Oh, my God. It was like, please, it's getting dark. Right. The number of casualties incurred by each side are not known for certain. One historian places Blunt as suffering 8 men killed, 36 wounded, for a total of 44 casualties. And Marmaduke at 10 killed and a minimum of 70 wounded and missing, for a total of 80. However, other sources place Blunt casualties at a total of 41 and Marmaduke's at 45. Blunt claimed victory, although the escaped Marmaduke's command in relatively good order allowed the Confederates to view the action as only a setback, but remained in the Cane Hill after the battle, while Marmaduke retreated to Van Buren.
Yeah, I think it was staying Cane Hill. While Blunt was encamped at Cane Hill after the battle, the Army of the Frontier's 2 other divisions, Tottens and Herons, were still in the Springfield area, roughly 100 miles away. Deep in enemy territory, Blunt had a tenuous supply line, and a distance to Springfield would mean that reinforcements would take some time to reach his position. With Blunt isolated, Hinman decided to move his army north to attack Blunt at Cane Hill before Huron could arrive with the other 2 Union divisions. However, Huron sent the 2 divisions on a hard march, and the Union reinforcements reached Blunt around the same time as Hinman's army did. This resulted in the Battle of Prairie Grove, which we'll have right after this one, in which the combined forces, and we'll get there. So, it leads right into the Battle of Prairie Grove. So, Blunt ain't done.
Blunt ain't done. He's still got about half of his shit to go. Significant portion of the battlefield, about 5,750 acres, was listed on the National Register of Historic Places in 1994 as the Cane Hill Battlefield. Arkansas Civil War Centennial Commission erected a highway marker near the battle site to interpret the fighting. In addition to the marker, a driving tour explaining the Cane Hill Battlefield has been developed. Oh, look at that, a tour. These Arkansans really love the Cane Hill Battle, huh?